I'm trying to do this in quite a limited time of around 15 minutes. So I'm going to get going, and I'll just sort of talk as I'm painting. I'm starting with the center of the flower, and I'm using sort of different colors, but they all are slightly linked to pinks and reds, and I'll be mixing them up, and occasionally I will blot some out so it's not too very watery. I'm using a dagger brush for those of you interested, and what's really nice about it is it gives you a nice sort of a petal shape to work with. I'm using the paint quite watery, and I am doing almost like a little double tap, so to speak, to mix the paint in directions. And I'm actually want to start a little bit small, and I'm mixing on the side. I'm mixing my watercolor, sort of two colors up to create a new color. So the one is magenta, a bit of alizarin, and I'm sort of building up the shape. So I just said I'm sort of starting so having a darker center, and then adding, sort of building out from there. So it starts quite a dark pink in the first instance, and I'll be starting to build out a bit from that. So I'll leave this to dry with some white bits in it, because I want to create some pops of color by having opposite, when I say opposite, having sort of complementary colors linked to it. And now I am using the same brush, same dagger brush, and using it on its side, and it gives me sort of quite nice outlines, sort of line marks. So I'm not making a perfect, might not look like a perfect dahlia specimen, so to speak, but I'm loosely basing my painting on that. It's sort of slightly uneven. I'm just playing with that, with the idea. So you can see that there's a bit of a variety in terms of the intensity of the pink in different areas. It's not the same everywhere. And extending this out, and then in places I'm gonna actually use it more watery, create more of a watery mark, as in a watery shape, I should say. And I will fill those in as well. But I deliberately create variety because of the uniformity of the shape and the fact that you read it as a flower. It makes it more interesting having sort of slight variables in it as well. And I'm adding a little bit of this sort of golden brown color as well, and it helps to make it richer, but it still all reads as pink. And in this instance, I'm not adding any white to the pink. I'm using the white base of the paper. I'm using Arches Aquarelle, and I'm using that as the white, so to speak, based on how concentrated the color is. So if the color is very concentrated, the pink will read like a more dense pink, and when it's where I have more water in the paint, it reads as a softer pink. So if you have any questions about it, let me know in comments or comments in my other post. Any particular questions. The paint I'm using is Core watercolor in this instance. And what I'm doing now is I'm adding a bit of blue and purple. And I'll add that in the center to make it a little bit more intense, creating a bit more dimension. So what I typically would do is to allow a bit of time to dry. I don't want to use a hairdryer on this in the live demo, so I'm painting a little bit wet on wet. And if it smudges in places, then that is fine. I'm using a magenta and purple that I mix up. So the paint I use it it's in tubes, and I've applied it onto the palette, and then the paint palette, and it's dried, and now as I add water to it, it dissolves again. So I'm using it and mixing it to the right consistency, and then I can paint with it. And I will sort of slightly carefully add some purple marks. And that should help to create a bit of depth to it as well. And then again, I've got this a red color as well. That might read a little bit muddy because it's mixing with the blue slightly in there. But I find when I do this and I add some colors that are not perfectly clean colors, if you understand what I mean, then it helps the clean colors to pop out a bit more. I'm using a kitchen towel to dab some areas so it can be lighter in order for me to paint over those areas. So in this particular one, I'm going to do a bit of work there, and I want it to be as dry as possible. I'm adding these stripes, adding a bit of detail. And the same there. As I said, I don't want to make this recording too long, so I'm trying to do it within this is a sort of a 15-minute painting. And now there, where I've painted before, and I want the outer petals, I should say, not leaves, to read as a little bit more translucent. I am using the paint quite watery, quite a watery consistency, and dabbing it as well. And I am trying to get rid of some of the white, but I'm doing this selectively, because once the white's painted out, it's no longer, I can't get back to that crisp whiteness. And what I also want to do is, before I finish up, I will paint on more on this, but as I said, I'm going to keep this to 15 minutes, is to add a bit of this sharp blue, like a turquoise blue. And I find that to work really well in terms of creating contrast. That is not necessarily a complementary color, although there with the orange it is, but it helps to make it pop. And I will do a bit more of that. And then I'm going to put it on a dark background. I will probably paint on it some more, but I just wanted to do a little demo of a watercolor painting using a dahlia as an example, because it's inspired by the beautiful collection of Farmer Gracie, And I'm very excited about this collaboration because I think it's I just love the idea of planting flowers, planting tubers, and see what come up in summer, and bulbs in autumn. And I think it's something that really delights, and especially at this strange time. They are still fully operational at this point. They do deliver, and one should have flowers in your life if you can, even if it's putting it in a pot, even if you don't have a garden. It's a good thing. It's a positive thing. I really think so. So you can watch the next bit of this this painting once I finish my little demo. I also want to mention I'm working on another course, and I'm also working on a free course, and I will have information on that going out in my newsletter. If you're interested in that, look at my bio, where you can see some information on that. So I am still adding a little bit more depth in places, so to differentiate between the different leaves, the different petals, the depth of them, and just playing with colors that are all a little bit linked, but with a bit of variety, and making use of the characteristics of the water paint as well, as in the watery paint, I should say. Doing a little bit of splashing, and I'm going to do that in yellow as well. A bit of yellow color. I'm going to wait for this to dry, and then I'm going to add more detail, and you can see this later on in the post when I'm done, and in the story that I'll link with it as well. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye.